So we left with painting the sky and the water. And now I'm going to block in some of the mountain areas. When you are painting with watercolors, you need to build up the layers. So what we're going to look for in each shape is the lightest of colors. Here I can see a really light brown, and here I can see a very light rose violet. Back here a little bit more blue or violet, and over here the very light yellowy brown that we see over here. So I want to prep my palette with those colors. Remember, having a water bottle like this one is pretty handy so that you can fill the wells with just water. I have this is a dirty brush. Always make sure you clean out your brushes before you go moving them into a color. This is the red in your palette that is called Carmine Red. So I'm going to add that to this water. It looks, I think, a little bit more bloody. The other one looks more orangey. And this is going to be good for that rosy kind of pink color. So I'm going to add that and a little bit of the blue, the Prussian blue. And then I want to test that out. That's pretty bluish. Move that up to here. I need more red. Yeah, that still looks kind of blue to me. So I'm going to use that in this section over here. And I'm just going to paint the whole area with that more, it's a little bit more blue. And then I want this to be a little, have a little more red in it, so scoop up some more red. And get it a little more pink. And the brown area, I'm just gonna keep it simple. Find my large, there it is. My large round brush. And I'm just gonna use the brown that comes right in your watercolor set. Charge up the brush. And get a nice light brown. Too light. You need to remember that watercolor paint dries a lot lighter than it looks while you're painting it. So anytime you're testing a color out and it looks too light, make sure you're going like another shade darker. So when I look at this area, I want this whole kind of swoopy area to be this base color. And the water has not dried completely, so I'm going to try not to touch that. Normally I would be waiting for that to dry. And I'll use this same brown for the bottom section over here, which I drew much larger. Remember to take up all that negative space as a magazine picture with the word spirits. That fills the negative space. But as a painting, it doesn't look so good. Go left-handed. So I'm gonna take just the tip of my brush and use that as the shape that projects out into the water there, and that makes it much easier to paint that shape. Oh no, I tilted the paper and got a little bit of it bleeding into the water. And it's always good to have mistakes happen on camera so I can show you how I would fix it. With paper towel, I would bring it to that section and just press right down on top of it. Here, I spilled over a little bit there too, so I can press down and lift it out. It keeps spilling over here. So I've got a lot of water in the painting itself, so I'm going to use the paper towel and kind of drink up those little pools, kind of like puddles of watercolor paint, so it's not so wet. And then I'll work up here with that rosy kind of violet that I mixed here. Remember, pigment will settle down into the bottom of the palette, so stir it up. And if this touches, it's going to bleed into the brown, and I think I'm okay with that because I'm going to add some other values on top of it in different colors. We're going to keep building up these glazes. Remember, at any point during this video, you can pause so that you can catch up. Pause, stop, rewind, come back. And now I can start adding some darker values. So for example, along the top of the mountain range up here, it looks a little bit darker. So while that section is still kind of wet, I'm gonna get a little of this Prussian blue and wet it with the rosy violet, and then get the brush a little bit drier and kind of add a darker value along the top of that mountain range. So kind of blends, does like a little bit of a gradient blend into the rest of the mountain range. And I can find other places within the mountain range and maybe add like a little bit more of some shading. Or even back here, where this whole front side of this cliff formation is darker than the top. And the lines are like curving and swooping in this direction. So I can do that with my brush as well. Curve and swoop them. maybe get some more of dark of the Prussian blue and add that on top. And I can do a little wet on wet if I want the lines to bleed and look more blurry. This is a background mountain range, so it's probably more blurry than what we'd see in the foreground. Okay, and at that point, I'm gonna stop and we'll pick up some more of this in the next video.